If we talk about the angry young man that I work with or I work for, it's groups of young men that congregate online to talk about feelings that they don't feel they can talk about in physical spaces like school, workplace, or institutions of hobbies like the football club or the music room. And often we see that these safe spaces or these support structures get toxified or get malicious because someone will tell these young men, well, it's not your fault you're feeling like this. Actually, it's the fault of someone else. It's the fault of the women or the feminists or the elite or the immigrants. Like it's someone's fault. So instead of feeling sad, which is a very historically very not masculine emotion, they should get angry or get back or get revenge, which is very masculine. And it's not that these feelings are biologically determined, not masculine or very masculine. It's more that we're not used to, as societies, to think about men as vulnerable or sad or anything else than kicking ass and taking names. So it's easier to identify with being an angry young man than being a sad young man. And sadly, we see that having a detrimental effect to the men themselves. They don't get better; they just get more and more aggressive, and we see them like in the outmost consequential factor doing violence against women, physical attacks, murders, mass murders, terrorist attacks. But we also see them basically just scaring the women out of the democratic debate. So in my work, we focus on, of course, the safety issue. We might have terror attacks. We might have mass murders directed at women or immigrants. But furthermore, it's also a democratic issue as the women, because of the threat of these attacks, don't engage in the democratic debate or the democratic discourse. And it all stems from these men not feeling well. So it's like a three-level issue. The role of the internet is first and foremost, it's the anonymous place. It's where you are not you're not the person who isn't feeling well. The internet, you can be wherever you want, whoever you want. And on the internet, you can also identify and you can find someone who thinks the same as you. 20 years ago, 25 years ago, if you didn't feel good, if you didn't feel like a real manly man, well, then you would sit in your room and just feel like that. Today, you can sit in your room, but go on the computer and find thousands of people who feel exactly like you. That's usually one of the points that I say that's the amazing thing about the internet. You're never alone online. But when we talk about these toxic, hurtful, or aggressive cultures, actually the problem is that you're not online. You can find someone to engage with. I can sit in Denmark and be super angry, but I can connect with someone in Christchurch who's also super angry. I can connect with someone in Oslo or Isla Vista or Florida. I can connect with anybody else, everybody else in the world who's also mad. So the internet is the glue that holds these communities together. Like the manosphere cultures might have different topics that they engage with. Either it is that we need to trick women into giving us sex. We need to fight the power that women have politically. We need to just disengage from society when women are there. We need to fight the immigrants. And to fight the immigrants, we need to fight the feminists and so on. And under these different topics, there's two baseline notions. One of them is that men and women are biologically and cognitively different. Secondly, women are, or feminists, fighting for so-called equality are evil and should be fought. So these countercultures, when I use countercultures as a term, it's all the cultures that are in opposition. If I form a culture of people who love playing pink guitars, cool, that's culture. If I form a culture of people who hate people playing pink guitars, it's a counterculture. So that's what we see with the manosphere movements, that basically it's groups of men standing on the outside and calling everybody on the inside assholes and calling for a revolution to fight all the people inside. What have been really important in my work have been to actually listen. Most places, most of the communities that have welcomed me and have talked to me are usually very closed off to outsiders because we don't acknowledge them. We don't respect them. Usually when outsiders try to solve this problem, it's by means of closing down their webpage, closing down their safe space, making them, in the words of one of the community moderators, emotionally homeless once again. And what has been important to me have been to be very honest about, has been to be very honest about, I want to understand this problem. We might not agree, but I at least want to understand you, and just giving them free room to express how they feel. And often they don't talk about angry feelings. Often they talk about vulnerable feelings. So I think honesty and openness, like in any other pedagogical work, like this is not a new theory that I just formulated. But instead of talking about them, instead of talking to them, I think it's really important to talk with them, to acknowledge they feel bad, to acknowledge why they feel bad, and not immediately not try to solve their problems like I would, because I'm not them. So if I feel sad one day, I go to the gym, or I ask my girlfriend if we should do something, or I ask my friends if they want to hang out. Strategies that they don't have, and applying my privilege on their lives is just unworthy of any pedagogical work. So I think honesty and openness, it's pretty tried and true, and it's a. I wish I had like a fix it. You need to do exactly this, but it's long haul. We need to do that when engaging with them, and we need to have an early intervention where we talk about every feeling with young men, and not just about being angry or being sad, being angry or being really good at something. If those are the only if we only teach young men, boys, that we have two emotions, successful and happy, and angry, well, if they're not successful and happy, well, they only have the language to talk about being angry. And we kind of need to install all the small gray areas in between those two extremities at a very young age. So I'm going to give you the boring answer: early intervention and openness and honesty.